Islanders, we know we have to take the good with the bad. We have both good news and bad news on the show today. We're going to start with the good news from Royal Caribbean as they share that the Radiance of the Seas is set to enter back into service after missing a couple of cruises, sailing from Alaska. We also have bad news from Carnival Cruise Line and passengers who were on board, passengers who booked that trip to Greenland. It sold out literally in hours. Passengers were excited to visit Greenland. The cruise did take place, but weather prevented the ship from making it to Greenland, upsetting passengers. We will share that story with you and what Carnival did for these passengers on the show today. We also have a wild video from Royal Caribbean's Voyager of the Seas and some high winds that made the ship list just a little bit, causing water from the pool on Lido deck to run out of the pool. We all need some time in the islands. Let's go there now on Island Time. A big happy Monday to all you Islanders. We hope that you had a great weekend and your week is off to a great start. We are on Island Time. I am Derek. Let's drop our anchors and take some time to relax in the islands together. There's no other way to start the show today than to call out. Today is Patriot Day, September the 11th, 2023. Somehow we're 22 years removed from those attacks that took place in 2001. We will never forget. On this day and many days throughout the year, we think about those events that took place. We know that there are Islanders who were affected by the attacks that took place on that day. You lost loved ones. You lived through the experience. Some of you, you saw what happened and you joined a branch of our military. You fought for this country. We sincerely thank you. And we will never, ever forget. One thing that's usually up here beside this flag is this, and you might know what this is. I try to point it out every year because we have new followers and watchers year after year. This right here, I won. It was an auction style bid from the fire department in New York, who years ago was having a fundraiser, and they auctioned these off. These are actually scraps and remains of the steel in a gel-like substance from Ground Zero that took place. And this World Trade Center artifact usually sits up there beside that flag, but I wanted to show it to you today. We will never forget. Thank you so much for all those who sacrificed. We reflect. Even this morning, I was watching the names being read of all those who were killed on this day, and the names take less than a second to read off. But there's so much more than a name. They are a life. They are mom, dad, a son, daughter, husband, and wife. And a ceremony, if we had a ceremony take place that talked about the life of each person and who they were and what they meant to everybody, that ceremony would take place from here to the end of time. We will never forget. Hopefully we have unity like we saw September the 12th, and we keep moving forward together. God bless America. Let's get into the latest in cruise news here. As I referenced, we have good and bad news on the show today. There are so many who are waiting. They were waiting to hear from Royal Caribbean and the Radiance of the Seas. They wanted to sail their Alaskan cruise from Alaska. 2 sailings have already been canceled. But Royal Caribbean sharing everything is okay. The ship is fixed. We knew what the issue was, and she is set to resume sailing September the 15th. That is great news for those who are waiting. Of course, those 2 itineraries were canceled. It was due to propulsion issues, what a lot of people thought took place. It was propulsion issues. Royal Caribbean did come out, though, and say that the ship was always safe to sail. There were some who were questioning her seaworthiness, and Royal Caribbean said the ship was never in any danger. The repairs have taken place with the propulsion system, and now everything is good to go. They shared our marine technical team has given us the green light, and we're thrilled to announce that the Radiance of the Seas will be returning to service with repairs wrapping up and sea trials preparations underway. We're now able to confirm our ability to sail as intended. That's great news for those of you who are trying to sail to Alaska. The season is getting ready to end. I mean, where did the season go so fast? Some ships already even completing their Alaskan season, but we're excited for that. That is the update on the story, but it's bad news for some Carnival cruisers. This story has been around for a little while, the last year at least. We a lot of us, if you stay in touch with cruise news, which you probably do because you're here, and if you're not a subscriber yet, be sure that you've subscribed to stay up to date with cruise news. But Carnival announced this itinerary going to Greenland months ago. And the itinerary, the cruise sold out in just hours. Matter of fact, Carnival added a second cruise that actually took place before the first cruise that they announced. Took place last month and visited Greenland. This was the original Greenland cruise. It was expensive. It was a longer cruise. Carnival hadn't been to Greenland in decades. It sold out. Passengers were excited. They boarded the ship. They were supposed to visit 2 stops, 2 ports of call in Greenland, and some ports of call in Canada in a long cruise. Passengers got on the Carnival Legend. The Carnival Legend left port, and within just a couple of days, Carnival realized the weather's not looking good. We're probably not going to be able to sail to the 2 ports of call in Greenland. One thing they were taking into consideration is that the 2 ports of call in Greenland were tender ports. So that made it even more complicated because passengers had to get off the ship into a smaller boat. The smaller boat had to drive inland, and that wasn't going to take place with bad weather and remnants of a hurricane that was around. And so Carnival had to make the decision and share with guests, hey, you booked this cruise simply because of the itinerary. You booked this cruise because it's going to Greenland. Sometimes we do that, right? We see ports of call, places that we want to go, so we booked the cruise because of that. That's what happened with all these passengers on board. You booked to go to Greenland, we're not going to Greenland. Instead, we're going to go to 4 different places in Canada. Passengers were upset. You could probably imagine, because this cruise was indeed so expensive. It was a bucket list cruise. And now they're not going to get to go to Greenland at all. Instead, they're going to Canada. Passengers, they were upset because they thought maybe they could visit these Canadian ports first and then let the bad weather pass out of the way, and then they could go to Greenland. But it just wasn't so. Carnival Cruise Line, number one, is always going to keep passengers safe, and that is true across the board, across the industry. Every cruise line, they're going to do what they think is best to keep passengers safe. And if there's a way to make itineraries happen, they're going to make them happen. They know that you book because of these things, but it just could not be done. Instead, now it's 9 sea days and 4 stops for this cruise. Carnival recognizes that this cruise was more expensive than what usually passengers pay. They actually gave onboard credit of $400 per cabin, non-refundable onboard credit, to book new excursions if passengers wanted to, or simply to buy internet, to buy a drink package, things like that. $400 onboard credit. We think that's fair, but we know that there were some that were upset and some that spent thousands and thousands for their accommodations. Do you think Carnival did the right thing by not going to Greenland? That answer should be probably yes, but did Carnival do enough to try to say, you know what, we know you spent money. We know this was the expectation. We couldn't control it, but here's our gesture to you. Let us know in the comment section below. I want to leave the show today by showing you this wild video. I've seen some of it from personal friends who were on this cruise. This video is from Greg Bradford, who sailed on board Royal Caribbean's Voyager of the Seas earlier this month. He sailed from Galveston, Texas. They're making their way out from Galveston, Texas, when the ship comes across, of course, a storm. They say 70-mile-per-hour winds. Look at the water coming over the side from the pool as the ship listed to one side, making that water continue to rush out. You'll see at the end of Greg's video how much water indeed gets out of that pool. It's unbelievable. Greg and others reported on board that it was about 5 minutes where the ship was listed to one way before the captain could correct it and fix the issue. What a scary moment. I actually heard from a couple of friends who live here locally and were on board this ship. It was their first cruise ever, and the ship had just left Galveston. Their first hour, 2 hours on board, less than 2 hours on board, and this event took place. And I remember getting a message saying, I thought you said you couldn't feel the boat move. I thought you said everything was going to be okay. It was their first cruise, and they were scared. To the point it was like, if this is going to be like this all the time, we want off this ship, even though the ship had already left Galveston. And I quickly said, no, this is an anomaly. This doesn't usually take place. You're going to be fine. Of course, the cruise went on and was great for the most part. They got back. They loved the cruise. But there are moments like this that take place. Greg Bradford sharing that video. Would you be scared in a moment like that? Or would you know this is an anomaly? Everything is going to be okay. The crew's got this under control. Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Islanders, we hope you enjoyed the show today. We certainly enjoyed bringing you the content. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like on this video. That will help this video be shown to others. We hope that you have a great day. We can't wait to see your comments in the comment section below, also on our Facebook page, and tomorrow right here on Island Time.